Hey Wargamers, let's talk about the Tau Stormsurge. I have my Index Xenos 2 book here, so let's talk about its strengths, its weaknesses, how you might want to run a Stormsurge in your own army, and the general role that Stormsurges play in 8th edition. Before we do that though, I want to say thanks for watching. If you like this video, if you like any of my other videos, go ahead, hit the like button and the subscribe button. That way you don't miss any of my upcoming unit reviews, battle reports, or hobby videos. Alright, so let's get into it. Basically, the Stormsurge is a turned down version of its 7th edition iteration. So it's a lot more in line with a lot of other units in the Tau army list and across army lists in general. And we can see a lot of that in its unit profile just right off the bat. So it has a movement of 6 inches, a weapon skill 5+, and as a side note, it lost Stomp, right? So it has a 5+ weapon skill, and that indicates, that should be a big red flag to you, don't get your Stormsurge into close combat. It's just not going to do very well, so don't try it. A ballistic skill of 4+, strength of 8, toughness 7, 20 wounds with 3 attacks, and a leadership of 8 with a 3+ save. So right off the bat, again, you can see it has a lot of wounds, and it's moderately durable with toughness 7 and a 3+ save, but still really more of an endurance unit than something that has a whole lot of durability just built into it in terms of having a really high toughness or a really low save. Toughness 7, 3+ save, that's really typical for a vehicle, and it's not going to stay around as long as you might think it would. So basically, it is equipped with a cluster rocket system, 4 destroyer missiles, 2 flamers, and a pulse blast cannon, along with 2 smart missile systems. So we can kind of tease that apart piece by piece in a minute here, but let's start off talking about those destroyer missiles. Destroyer missiles are probably the best thing about the Stormsurge, in my opinion, because they can deliver D3 mortal wounds just right off the bat. You see something you don't like how that Chimera is looking at you, or that Knight's looking at you, or something like that, pow, just throw a couple destroyer missiles at it. It's not going to kill it. It's not going to remove it from the board, but it's going to do a nice amount of damage, and hopefully those 4 destroyer missiles will do enough to knock it down to its lesser tier of capabilities. So of course, all vehicles and a lot of monsters in 8th edition have tiered abilities, and you typically are able to reduce the efficacy of those models by removing half their wounds, and destroyer missiles can do that. So that's a good alpha strike option to kind of get rid of some of the offensive abilities of some of your opponent's scarier units. So there's that. All right. So in terms of your main gun, it comes equipped with a pulse blast cannon, which, like in 7th edition, has 3 tiers of range or ability. Up to 10 inches away, it's a heavy 2, strength 14 with -4 AP, doing 6 damage. Up to 20 inches away, it's heavy 4 with strength 12, -2 AP, and 3 damage. And then up to 30 inches away, it's heavy 6, strength 10, no AP, doing 1 damage. So you can see it's basically, like a big old blast right up in the face, right up next to the Stormsurge. And then as you move further away, it becomes a little bit more dispersed and not quite as powerful. In contrast, the Pulse Driver Cannon has a uniform offensive capability, range 72 inches, heavy D3, strength 10, -3 AP, doing D6 wounds. And of course, if you're attacking a unit with more than 10 models, it becomes a D6 attack instead of a D3. So you might suspect that overall, I think that the driver cannon is the better way to go here. It's a lot easier to actually implement. The main issue with the blast cannon is that its most effective range, that 10-inch range, is so easily circumvented by many of the units you'd want to target it with, or target it at. The things you want to shoot at with this guy are going to be able to get around that real easy, and that's because things are so much more mobile now. 10 inches, something would have to go kind of odd for this guy to have a knight 10 inches away from it and not be in combat already. Granted, it does have enough wounds, and it does have a special ability that allows it to retreat from combat and fire. So potentially there is play for the blast cannon if it gets charged, survives, retreats, and then shoots. But you're putting a lot of risk in that strategy, and so having the uniform long-range offensive capability of the driver cannon seems like it's a better choice in most situations, unless you're just able to exploit the blast cannon in a way that works for you. The driver cannon is going to be a better option more often. In terms of your secondary weapon, it comes with flamers. I think that's actually pretty good. You could also go with burst cannons, and that's probably the better option in a lot of cases, just because of the extra range again. But definitely not the air burst fragmentation projector, because it's a lower strength, and it does allow you to circumvent line of sight obstructing terrain, but I'd rather just have a burst cannon, I think. So yeah. The Stormsurge also is one of these larger battle suits, although it doesn't have the battle suit keyword, that can take supporting systems without losing firepower. So the Stormsurge can take up to 3 supporting systems, and I think there are 4 that really stand out as the things you might want to take. First is a shield generator. This guy's going to be targeted with high AP, high damage weapons, and so having that shield generator on there is almost a necessity if you want it to stay around. Stimulant injector similarly is going to allow you to avoid some of these damage dealing, high damage dealing weapons, and also circumvent mortal wounds, which are probably going to be targeted at this guy. So stimulant injector is also a good choice. Now you do have you have 2 other choices. You could also throw in a target lock here, but really I don't think your Stormsurge is going to want to be moving. And the reason for that is that it still has a stabilizing anchor special ability. Basically the way that works is at the end of your shooting phase, you deploy the anchors, and those are deployed until your next turn, and they basically increase your ballistic skill by 1. They add 1 to your rolls to hit. So that's good in the way that it actually makes this a little bit more reliable. Instead of having a 4-up ballistic skill, it actually has a 3-up ballistic skill if you deploy the anchors, and that's pretty significant. So you're not really going to want this guy moving around a lot, and so the target lock is wasted on an anchored Stormsurge. So don't use the target lock. Instead, go with an advanced targeting system, because the cluster rocket system is going to benefit from that a lot, and pretty much anything except for your main weapon is going to be improved by the advanced targeting system. Really good investment of 8 points there. Or you can go with the drone controller, and the reason why I say that is because, again, it's going to be kind of this anchor unit on your line, and so if you surround it with marker drones, it's going to be able to boost them pretty well, and you don't have to worry about it disappearing right away. It's going to be there for at least a little while and help support those drones and their functionality for a longer period of time. But yeah, so any of those 4 I think are fairly good options. But on the note of drones, on the subject of drones, like I said, the Stormsurge is not a battlesuit, meaning that it can't benefit from savior protocols on nearby drones. So even though you put the drone controller on a Stormsurge potentially, it's not going to be any more durable because those drones are there. They're not going to be able to jump in the way of shots coming at it or anything like that. The Stormsurge is not a battlesuit. So yeah, that's actually a fairly big drawback. Is a lot of the TOW functionality is based around marker lights and based around having drones intercept shots for units that you want to keep alive, and you can't do that with the Stormsurge. Alright, so let's kind of take a step back. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this guy? Well, overall, it can put out a lot of shots. The cluster rocket system is 46 missile shots, or 46 pulse shots, so strength 5, 1 damage shots, and that can add up to be a lot, especially when you put that advanced targeting system on there. It can really pack a punch. The blast cannon can take out some pretty heavy opponents if you can get it close enough, but again, that's challenging. The driver cannon can also do a fair amount of damage and is more easily applied to most situations, but it's not extraordinarily powerful. It does a fair amount of damage, but it's not just, you know, mind-blowingly powerful. So there's that, and it's also just kind of a good backbone unit for your army. It's going to stick around for probably a few turns at least, but yeah, that's about it. Those are really the strengths. It has a fair amount of shots in it, and it has a fair amount of a punch, but it's not an overwhelming number of shots. It's not an overwhelmingly large punch, and it's not overwhelmingly durable. It's pretty, you know, much what you would expect for the points that you put into it. And that's kind of part of its weaknesses too, is it's not especially durable. It's not mobile at all because you're going to want to have it anchored. And the work that's done by the driver cannon can actually be done more efficiently by a pair of hammerheads, especially if you have long strike as one of those two. They're going to perform a lot better than a single driver cannon. They're going to have more wounds and actually be more durable than a Stormsurge as well. So for that reason, I tend to think the Stormsurge really isn't that strong of an offensive component of an army. And on top of that, it doesn't fit into any of the standard command point yielding detachments. You can't bring this in a battalion detachment or anything like that. You have to bring it as a Lord of War detachment, and that's not going to really help you out very much in terms of command points. So I would rather use the points to go to a different detachment, get more command points, and have a more flexible army that has more command points and things like that. So there's that. Granted, there is a flip side to that if you're trying to build your army to deploy quickly, this soaks up a ton of points really fast. So you're not going to have as many units, and that can kind of help facilitate that process. But overall, I don't think it's really quite as effective as we would like. Overall, I don't think that the Stormsurge is as big of a component in most Tau armies going forward as it was in the past. It's, you know, fairly good. It does an okay amount of job, but it's actually not that points efficient either in terms of the wounds and durability that it has, or in terms of its offensive capability. You can do a lot of the same things for cheaper using other units, and they're either going to put out more firepower or be more durable. And for that reason, it's not going to be a main component of a lot of my lists. I think it can pack a punch, it can do very specific jobs, but it's not something that you're always going to want to take. I kind of think of it as part of the second tier of Tau units in the new index. But let me know what you think. If you guys are using this guy out there and it's just wrecking face, you know, Stormsurge came to do two things: eat popcorn and kick ass, and it's all out of popcorn. Let me know. But you know, either way, let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching. Of course, happy wargaming.